Hi, welcome to episode 8 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. I'm Laura. You can also find me as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram, and I blog at The Corner of Knit and Tea. This episode's show notes are up or will be up on The Corner of Knit and Tea, and I would love it if you left me a comment either there or on YouTube where this video is posted. Finally, I also have an Etsy shop called The Stash Buckler Adventures in Yarn, where I sell my handspun. Welcome to episode 8. I hope you've had a great week. I have. The weather has been beautiful. We went out to dinner a couple times this week, and work was a little challenging, but everything else went well, and I finished a ton of things, which I can't wait to show you. So I thought I would start with tea. Today I am sipping another sample tea. This is in my Jenny the Potter crab mug, and you can see there's yarn and crabs, and I particularly like the pirate crab. It's my favorite. And the tea is Lana's The Little House, and these are samples that I got from her. I will link all of this in the show notes. The tea today is apple almond, which is described as a flavored black tea. I brewed it hot, and I will say that I don't have a list of the ingredients, but I did see both dried chunks of apple and slices of almonds in here. So it smells delicious, and it tastes quite good as well. It's a strong black tea, but I can definitely taste both the apple and the almond. I particularly, I ordered from Lana's after having a friend give me a sample of what we joke is crack tea. It is an almond coconut tea that she does, and it is absolutely delicious, but I went ahead and ordered a bunch of samples from her as well to try. These are small bags. They don't have a weight on them, but I usually get 2 to 3 cups of tea testing out of them. So, like I said, this is apple almond from Lana's The Little House. It'll be linked in the show notes, and my Jenny the Potter mug. I'm excited that this week has actually been beautiful. It's been in the 80s, so it's not quite time for hot tea weather, but I'm excited that it's getting there, and I can show you my collection of mugs. So that is tea for today, which brings me to what I'm wearing. I am wearing the Rocky Coast cardigan. It's from the book Coastal Knits by Hannah Fettig, and I knit it in Elsbeth Lavold silky wool in a teal colorway. And I have to say that I have very mixed feelings about this sweater. I love, let me see if I can get you closer to see the pattern. I love the kind of wavy cabled pattern that is throughout the garment, and I absolutely love the silky wool. I find that the garment is a little bit weirdly cut. It's meant to sit very wide on your shoulders, and kind of, as you can see, it's not a sweater that closes in the front. It just kind of goes straight down. Now, I love that for on warmer days when I just need a little something cooler to, when I just need a little something to wear to the office. Probably the single most frustrating point of this sweater for me is that it tends to fall off my shoulders. For some reason, it just doesn't want to stay on, and I've pondered whether I would knit it again and what I would do differently. I think I might work a little bit more of a shoulder. I might not necessarily make the sweater meet in the front, but I might do a little bit more of a shoulder. The other thing that occurred to me is I could wear it with some kind of clasp or pin, but I'm not necessarily sure that I like the line that creates down at the bottom, so I just haven't decided. But so I drag this out every season, particularly when the weather is kind of warm or in between temperatures, and I wear it several times, and it annoys me because it falls off my shoulders, and I think, oh, but I don't really want to get rid of it because I like it. So those are my notes on this particular sweater. I don't know if you've knit this pattern, or if you have any interest in knitting it, or if you have similar problems. I would love to hear if you have knit it and how you wear it, and whether yours falls off your shoulders. So I've knit other patterns by Hannah Fettig, and I love them. I just think that this cut may not be quite right for me. But that's what I have to tell you about that. So I thought I would start actually after those first two segments before going into everything that I've knit by doing the drawing. As you know, I wanted to do a giveaway for when I hit more than 100 subscribers, and actually I checked this morning and I am up to 124, which is absolutely amazing. I can't believe that there are 124 of you who want to share 20 or 30 minutes with me once a week, and that's really flattering, and I'm so excited, and I love that so many of you comment and let me know what you think, and that I've seen you on Ravelry and other places, and I've found so many new podcasts to watch. So I really wanted to do a little giveaway. I had 20 commenters. One was my comment in sharing the video, and one person commented twice. So I ran the random number generator 2 through 18 and then went ahead and pulled a random number, and the winner is Brenda Hopper. So Brenda, if you would like to email me, the best way to email me is thestashbuckler@gmail.com, and this beautiful scarf that I wove is yours, and I will get that out to you this week. So I will put that in the show notes in both places, both on the video and on my blog, but congratulations, Brenda Hopper. So, and I will be doing other giveaways as time goes on, as we hit more milestones, or just as I feel like giving some stuff away. I have some yarn, I have some hand-spun yarn, so please continue to stay tuned in. This won't be the only time that I give away something. So, and thank you to everyone who entered and who commented, and some of you asked questions, or asked me to cover something different on the show, and actually I'm going to put in a segment at the very end where I answer a few questions and respond to some of your comments, and I will now go back and respond to your comments on YouTube as well. I like responding to everyone, and it was actually hard not to this week when I saw the comments come in, but I didn't want to throw off the random number generator with my responses all the way in between, so I just went ahead and left it. But rest assured, I did read all of them, and I now will begin to respond to them. So let's look at knitting. I joked last night on Twitter that I was a finishing queen this week. I do not know how I got through so many projects, but I guess I had just enough things that were close to done, or I had some unexpected time, and I managed to finish 3 projects this week, as well as pick up a few others. So let's go into knitting. The first project that I finished was the hat that I was working on last week. It was a test knit for Chrissy Prang Left Side Knits. It is the Endless Mountain hat, and it is supposed to be a slouchy beanie with lace patterning. She finished the test early, so the pattern is actually available right now, and I believe it's on sale for just a little while longer for $2, and then it will go up to $5. As I said, I knit this hat in, the pattern is written for both sport weight and Aran weight. She used Plucky Aran and I think Plucky Primo Sport, and I used Cascade Epiphany, which is an alpaca cashmere silk in a sport weight, in this cherry red, and I finished the hat. It's actually a little bit big on me, but I'll put it on anyway. It will be nice and cozy for the winter, and as you can see, it's very slouchy in the back, plenty of room back there, and I'm sure it will keep me nice and warm. As I spoke last week, I talked a little bit about whether or not I thought the yarn ended up being a good choice for the pattern, and I think probably not, because as you can see, the ribbing down at the bottom is very wide here, so I suspect if I were to go outside and try and shovel snow and I got a little sweaty, the hat would probably fall down into my eyes, which isn't exactly what I'm looking for. However, if I'm just running around and just need a hat to throw on, this will be super warm and super soft, so I think I probably will use it. On the other hand, I might see if anyone I know has a slightly bigger head, and it might be a gift, but that is the Endless Mountain hat, and I finished that this week. The second thing I finished were my spooky socks, which I have showed you multiple times now. I have two big knee socks. I'm not going to put them on because to try and show them to you would be crazy. As I said, I'll just review the details real quick. This is Knit Picks Felici in the Spooky colorway. They do not make this yarn anymore. I don't know if they're going to come out with another stripy yarn. I used David Schultz's Toe Up Sock Cookbook for the toes. He starts increasing very quickly at the toes and then more slowly as he gets to more and more stitches, which I really like. I did the Fish Lips Kiss Heel, which is linked in the notes. It's a great heel pattern. I really like it, particularly with stripy sock yarn, so that I can kind of maintain the stripes. And then I just knit straight straight up the foot. Up the leg. I added a total of 12 stitches to get some calf shaping, just at random intervals. And then I did about 2 inches of 3x1 rib up at the top. I'm hoping that will help these knee socks stay up better. So these are done and ready for October and Halloween month, and I am super excited. We owe the completion of the second sock to my 3-hour wait at the DMV on Monday morning, which was not fun, but luckily I brought my sock with me and I got through almost all of the leg in that 3 hours. So really that's how I finished these this quickly this week. I really didn't think I was going to get them done in time for the podcast. I was just hoping I'd make the September 30th self-imposed deadline, but I'm super pleased with these and cannot wait to wear them, and there will be pictures probably going up later today as I model them and take some photos. So those are finished as well. The third finished project is I finished the baby blanket. I really did not think I was going to finish this one. I kind of figured I wanted to finish it this month, but I kind of figured it might even lap over into October. And somehow I managed to get it done this week. So this is the Sugar Plums blanket by Danielle Chowson. And I used, the pattern calls for DK, but I used Madtosh Sport Weight because it's going for a baby in California in the colorway Night Blooms, which is a lovely kind of pinky, mauvey, purpley, washed with gray. It's really, really beautiful. And I mostly knit per pattern. I cast on 3 extra pattern repeats across because I was using sport, so my gauge was going to be a little different. And the pattern called for 12 repeats tall, and I got through 11 repeats because I was using a different weight yarn, and I probably could have gotten the 12th repeat because I had a little bit of yarn left over, but I really didn't want to play yarn chicken and have to rip back out, so I just went with what I did. I have no finished measurements for you yet because it has not been blocked because I just finished last night, and so it's actually kind of looking rectangular and very small right now, but I suspect that's really because of the cabling pattern, and once I actually give it a wash and a block, there's a ton of give here in both directions. So this is the finished baby blanket. And I probably won't show it again after I block because it won't look that much different to you. It'll just be a little bit bigger, but I will put the finished dimensions in my project notes. I have to say this pattern was super easy once I figured out that the cables are on set rows, then I could just kind of go and finish it. So that is finished. I will block that, wash and block it probably this evening and send it to my mom sometime next week. And again, you can see the cable pattern on it right there, and it will just be more rounded, I hope, as I block it. So that is the third project, and that is quite a bit of yardage finished this week, and I was just super, super happy to finish those projects because it means I can get started on October projects. Like I've said before, I play in the Harry Potter House Cup and I participate in a lot of knit-alongs, so I definitely like to kind of keep my projects rolling along, and I often try and finish between the 1st and the 30th or the 31st, and so I was just very happy to finish those. I have a few days left at the end of the month, and some things burning a hole in my stash. So one of the things that I started, and I have knit this pattern before and even shown you this pattern before, just not in this yarn, is I decided that my niece Roxy needed little Halloween leg warmers. This is Leg Warmies. It's a free pattern by Alana Dacos, and I've knit them a bunch of times now. I just think there's nothing cuter than a baby in leg warmers. And this is some great Halloween sock yarn. It's got orange and green and purple and black. And I knit myself a pair of socks in this and had enough left over that I was pretty sure that I would get leggies out of it. So I did the first one, I need to do the second one. And actually what's funny is I started the leggie and I took a picture of it and sent it to my sister and said, I think Roxy needs leggies, what do you think? And she wrote back and said, I just ordered her a pumpkin costume and I was going to ask if you could make her some leg warmers. So apparently we were both thinking along the same track. So I am going to finish these up and get these out to her so that Roxy can wear them on Halloween. So that's just a little something. I should finish that before the next podcast. These really are not very hard. I modify her pattern slightly because it calls for sport weight, and I do these in, I've done most of these in fingering weight. So I just cast on a certain number, you rib for a little while, and then you just knit straight until you hit a certain measurement, rib a little bit, and then you're done. So yeah. And this yarn is, it's called Two Windows Dye Company. It's a small independent dyer here in Kansas, and I believe she doesn't really sell on her website. She mostly sells at shows, and she used to vend through one of the local yarn stores. She's out in kind of central to western Kansas. So I don't know how available her yarns are. I'll put a link up in the show notes if I can find one to her shop, but like I said, I've usually bought them in person at a show. And finally, you have seen this before, I decided I had 3 days left in the month and I was going to get this sweater done, damn it. So, oops, I just cursed on YouTube. I hope that you don't have children watching with you. I'm terribly sorry if you do. As I showed you this sweater a while ago, this is Caramel by Isabel Kermeyer. And I knit the whole body back in June and July, and then I kind of stalled in the sleeves because I got involved in other projects. And last night I picked up for my first sleeve and knit several rows. Actually, I knit far more than this, but I realized that the sweater, okay. This is a garment that is striped. And for the body, I knit back and forth, so I didn't have to worry about maintaining stripes in the round. A lot of times when you knit stripes in the round, where the stitches meet, there's something called a jog, which is where the colors just kind of skip, because technically when you're knitting in the round, you're actually knitting in kind of a spiral, because things don't meet up exactly in the round. You're knitting from one row to the next. So when you knit stripes, sometimes when you get to that break point, your stripes look like this. You've got one on a kind of a lower end and one on kind of a higher end. And so you get what's called a jog in your stripes. Now there are many, many ways to prevent this. There are jogless stripe methods, which I've used to some degree of success. So I spent a long time thinking about this, because the deal is this is a top-down raglan sweater where you knit the raglan all in one piece, and then you pull off a certain number of stitches for the sleeve, and then you continue down the body. Normally, I would, particularly if there were no color changes, I would pick up and I would knit sleeves in the round. So as I was debating what to do on the sleeves and how much striping I wanted to do, and part of this is also determined by how much of these colors I have left, and I need to do 2 sleeves, so some calculation on if I have enough yarn to stripe both sleeves. Ultimately what I decided is that I do not have enough yarn to do the complete striping pattern all the way down the sleeves. I'm really short on the green and I don't want to buy another ball. So the decision that I made was that I was going to knit the sleeves in this plain oatmeal color for approximately 10 inches, and then I was going to do the pattern from basically this dark chocolate brown down. So it'll have a chocolate brown stripe, a pink stripe, a bunch of chocolate brown, and then all these little stripes down at the end, and then the ribbing. So the sleeves will basically match the body of the sweater, and I've modified it slightly for length because the body is going to be just a little bit longer than the sleeves would be. But as I started to think about how I was going to do the striping section, I realized that with all these different color stripes, and particularly these areas with just a couple rows, and I was going to have to weave ends in, and I was really unhappy thinking about how I was going to knit these sleeves in the round and how they were going to look and whether there was going to be a lot of bulk where the seam was. I finally decided that I'm going to knit, I picked up in the round, but I'm actually going to knit the sleeves flat. So I'm just going to knit back and forth, much as I did in the body. And then I'm going to seam the sleeve myself, and that will take care of a lot of the problems with jogging because I can seam it so that I can line it up so that each stripe is geometrically perfect. I know this is a lot of thinking about this, but I just, particularly when I took a break and I thought about it, I just really decided that I didn't want to have to mess with a lot of things. And although I enjoy knitting in one piece and I enjoy not having to seam a whole bunch of pieces together, actually having to seam the underside of a sleeve really isn't that hard, and it doesn't faze me at all, and it will just give it a little bit of structure there. So the only other thing that I did was I cast on a couple extra stitches on either side. These are the placket that I will, or the extra stitch that I will go ahead and use to seam. It will be inside the sweater, so there won't be a lot of extra bulk, but it does give me an extra bit so that the sleeve isn't actually smaller than where I cast on here, if that makes any sense. And it was a little bit tight, so I wanted to be sure that I had an extra stitch or two to play with to go ahead and seam that. So I have not gotten very far. Like I said, I got a little bit further last night, and then I pulled it out and sort of remembered that I needed to cast on an extra stitch or two at either side. So I went back, but I'm really hoping to crank on this tonight because this and the leggies are pretty much the only project I want to work on before October 1st, and that's today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. And honestly, if I have to finish this at Wednesday night knit night, that doesn't bother me at all. I just kind of want to get this done so that I can clear my plate and start on my October projects. So hopefully by the next time I podcast, I will have this to show you and the leggies, and then I will have cast on some new October projects, which I'm excited about, but I decided not to go into today since I have some other things to talk about today and I don't want this to be too long, and I'll just show you all of them next week because by next week I will have cast a bunch of things on. So that is what I'm doing here. Sorry, yarn down, alert Kimmy and Sam, yarn down, but we're okay now. Okay, so I believe that gets me through all of knitting. Whew, glad you're still hanging in here with me. It was kind of a big week. Spinning actually was not such a big week, or it was a little bit, but I don't have a ton to show you. Last week I talked to you about how someone had posted a picture of one of the things that I had spun, and I had gotten a couple custom requests for it, so I had gone ahead and spun one up. And this is the first, or technically the second skein that I spun up. The fiber is a South African superfine merino. It is by Southern Cross Fiber. His colorway was Homestead. I called it Scallywag. And this right here is the skein. It's beautiful. Like I said, the colors are kind of a cream white and a tan, a darker brown, some burgundy, and I just love the colorways in this skein. This fiber was just beautiful, and this actually gave me an excuse to get and spin more of it. I loved the first skein I spun, and thanks to some generous ravelers, I was able to get more. What I will say is that this skein looks a lot different than the other skein, and this is something that I need to disclose. And I do say it in my shop, and I want to say it to you as well if you're ever interested in buying my hand spun. Every braid, even with the best quality control, every braid from an indie fiber dyer can be different. It can be slightly different based on the batch. There can be a little bit of variation in the color, a little bit of variation in which colors you get on which sections of the braids or the orders that they're lined up. And I am not in any way being critical of that. It is really, really hard unless you are in a commercial machine-driven process. And even then it's hard because you know about, you hear all about the importance of dye lots, and yarn from two different dye lots can look slightly different shade. And if you've been knitting a long time, you have made the mistake of not having enough yarn of a certain colorway and trying to buy more and having it not quite match or be slightly different, and you get a little line in your garment. A lot of us have used multiple skeins and sort of alternated them throughout a garment to try and make things look more more cohesive so that you don't have splits between the colors. So this is not me being critical of dyers, and particularly not being critical of David of Southern Cross Fiber, because he has some of the best, most amazing quality control that I know of. That said, he dyes hundreds of braids for Club. It is completely unrealistic to think that every single braid is going to be 100% identical. Then you add in another factor, which is I'm spinning it. No matter how hard I try, and no matter how much I use control cards and I try and check where I'm at and I try and spin it in the exact same order that I spun it before, it's not 100% going to work. So my braids and my skeins of yarn are pretty much one of a kind. Now I can order the same fiber and I can try and spin it the same and I can get approximately the same weight, and they're never going to be 100% the same as something else that I may have spun, even if it was the same color and the same process. So, I mean, I just want to disclose that, and that is the nature of hand spun. It is the nature of handmade things. No one handmade thing is going to be exactly like another handmade thing. And honestly, I think that's wonderful. I think it means that you get something that's one of a kind, that you're going to be able to make into something special for you. And even if you use the same pattern and the same yarn, it may look a little bit different from someone else's. So, I will say that this skein did not spin up exactly like the others. I think the other was, if possible, even a little bit more barber pole-y. I think here the colors lined up a little bit more than they did previously, but it is still the same fiber, it's still the same colors. I think it will knit up beautifully. And that is to say, I have a few more. This skein is actually already spoken for, but I have a few more bumps, and one that I'm actually in the middle of spinning right now that will go up in the shop probably sometime later this week. And it is up for grabs. So I will post that on Twitter and Instagram, and it will go up in the shop, and if anyone is interested, they are certainly welcome. Usually I just put a reserved for if I have a braid that is spoken for. Otherwise, you are more than welcome to purchase. So I will just say that was probably a little bit of a long diatribe, but I wanted to kind of explain, because I know people look at pictures and are like, I want that, and I try to get it as close as I can, but it'll never be 100% perfect. So this skein is unique. It is one of a kind. So that is that. So I am working on a second skein of this. I am about halfway through the singles. I suspect I'll probably finish it up Monday, Tuesday, and then it'll need a good washing and drying and photoing, because I always photo the exact skein you're going to get. I won't relist it with different photos. The photos will be the exact skein that you are going to get if you choose to purchase. So I will do that, and my guess is it will be up Thursday or Friday in the shop for purchase. Which means by Thursday or Friday, I'll be ready for a new braid to spin. So I went ahead and pulled out a new braid. This is Skein Fibers and Yarns, and she is located in Australia, and I bought this one a while ago because I loved the colors. This is 100% Australian Merino, and it is in the colorway Meadow. And I don't know if everything's coming across on the screen. There are a few spots of just, excuse me, absolutely gorgeous yellows and tans. And then you've got all kinds of greens and teals. And I think it's coming across a little bit bluer on the screen. I will try and take a photo and put it up on Instagram so that you can see the true colors. But I just thought this would be a nice one to spin up next, and a little break in the colorway monotony of the Homestead. And then I have a couple more of Homestead, and I actually have another one of this one, so I suspect I'll be alternating a little bit, and I'm sorry that that makes it a little bit boring with what I'm showing you. So this will be up next, and hopefully I'll be able to at least show you a bobbin, if not a finished skein, next week. So that concludes spinning for today, and I think I've gotten through all my sections, and I'm at close to 30 minutes, so I won't go too much longer, but I did want to respond to a few comments. The first one that I wanted to respond to was Margaret, who is Margaret Hastings. She let me know that Owlet runs a little bit small and that I should consider knitting the next size up, particularly when I'm knitting for a child, and I very much appreciate that. I actually hadn't heard about that, so thank you for that advice. And I might end up, I'm knitting it for Roxy's first birthday, so I might actually go up to the 18-month version and try that. Or I'm also, like I said, I might try and turn it into a cardigan, so I may just have a little bit of extra width for that. And as you can see, the sweater is still falling off my shoulders. The second question or comment that I wanted to talk about was Beth Butler asked me about teapots. If you read my blog over at the Corner of Knit and Tea, and not that you have to, but I have written about this, I am kind of down and dirty about my tea. Most of the tea that I drink is at work during the day, and so that makes having a teapot really hard. I actually don't own a teapot that I use. I have one decorative teapot that sits here in my craft room, but I don't use a teapot. Often at work, I use the hot water dispenser, which is on the industrial coffee maker, so it's got a filter on it, but it just comes out plain hot water. Or I have been known to use, we have a cooler system, which also has hot water on it. At home, usually I just put water in the microwave in a measuring cup and heat it up for a few minutes. So like I said, I'm not super sophisticated about teapots, and I'm not really qualified to tell you about teapots. I will say that if you're not spending a huge amount of money, if you're staying between $30 and $50 and you're going to make tea at home and you're really going to enjoy making tea at home, that it can completely be worth it. I'm not sure if you're looking for a teapot that you're actually going to set on the stove or a teapot that you're just going to brew tea in. I also brought a few of the mugs that I usually brew tea in. These I take to work. This is, I got this one at Tevana. It's an Aladdin mug, and what it is it's got a little compartment for where you can place the tea, and it's got a little lever so that you can drop it down. It's really easy to open. You can fill it with tea, then close it back up, and then you put hot water in the mug, and or if you want sugar or whatever, you screw back on, and then you just push the lever down. Hold on, sometimes it sticks. Of course it would do it now, wouldn't it? Okay, there we go. So then it will go down into the tea and it will infuse the tea, and you can let it sit in the water until you believe it's done, or if you want to time it, that's fine. Like I said, I'm down and dirty. I don't really time it. Then you just pull it back up, and it's got a drinking spout here where you can just drink tea. So that is what I often use at work. I have kind of a rotating set of mugs. I use them for a couple days, and then I bring them home and clean them. It also depends whether you're using loose leaf or whether you're using tea bags. I tend towards loose leaf, which is not really even because I'm a snob, but because I like the flavors and I like to try all of the new things. The difference between tea bags and loose leaf tea. Tea bags are usually the leftovers from the loose leaf tea, not necessarily lower quality, but it generally is the smaller pieces. So you get a lot of tea dust and a lot of the smaller leaves that are left over from the loose leaf, which takes the full tea leaves. And so a lot of that, particularly what they call the dust, when you use a tea bag in a cup of tea, absorbs into the tea, which is why often if you try and rebrew a second time with a tea bag, you don't get as potent a brew. Because a lot of the dust has sort of absorbed into the first brew. However, if you're brewing with loose leaf, you can get several brews out of the same amount of tea. So particularly in a mug like this, sometimes I'll have 2 to 3 cups of tea during the day, and I'll only fill the container once with tea leaves, and I'll still be able to just rinse it out, put more, rinse the mug out, put more water in here, and drop it down. So, and get a couple cups of tea in one day. The other, and these are, I don't think this one is dishwasher safe. Oh, it is Top Rack dishwasher safe, and it's BPA free. So, you can use this one. Usually I hand wash this one. The other one that I got just for comparison's sake, and I did write a comparison on my blog about it, was from, the Republic of Tea. This is glass as opposed to plastic. It's got a lid, and then it's got this little mesh basket that you can fill with tea. You can drop it right in. You pour the hot water over it, and then you can pull the basket out when it's done brewing. And then you've got tea in your thermos to keep it hot. I did a compare and contrast on the two of these. The couple things that I don't like about this are, one, you have to remove the basket because there's no way you can drink. The tea's not enclosed. You'd get a mouthful of tea. So you have to remove the basket, which usually means I need a small plate near where I'm sitting to put the basket on while it's dripping. They sell tea plates. They sell all kinds of things. And I have covered that some on my blog too. If you want to search for either infusers or tea plates, you'll see those on my blog as well. I do like that this is glass. And then the other thing is I like that the other one has a spout that you can drink from. This one you actually have to fully open it. On the other hand, if you wanted to keep some tea warm and then pour yourself a cup at a time, you can probably get close to 2 cups if you're using a small teacup on this one. So, you know, and it's also easy to carry places. And I actually do drink straight from the mug. I just did a compare contrast on what slightly different versions are. Also, if you want to brew tea in a mug, what you can do is you can get a variety of infusers, and I just brought in the one that I used today. This was a gift from a friend. It's a little rubber ducky infuser. And what you've got is the little mesh basket that you put your tea into, and then it's got little notches, and the duck has little edge pieces, so you fit the notch into there, and you snap it shut. And I would recommend that you look at this and snap it shut correctly. The first time I did this, the duck came off the top because I didn't realize there was a notch, and I had tea leaves all throughout my tea, which was not great. The little duck floats on top. It's aerodynamic on the water, it floats on top, it infuses the tea, and then when you're done, you just pull him out, and actually there's a little rest, there's a little blue rest that he sits in like this, so you can just put him aside and use him again later. There are a million different kinds of infusers. There are fun ones. There are just tea balls where you put the tea in and drop the ball in, and usually they have a chain. If you look over at my site for infusers, I have done several posts about cool, fun infusers. You buy a couple, you stick one at home, you stick one at work, you're good to go. So that is normally how I brew my tea. I do brew with bags sometimes. Again, I just use hot water and dunk the bag in and toss the bag when I'm done. In general, I don't use like ceramic teapots, although I have posted different ones on my blog. I have not really reviewed any, but I have found a whole bunch of cute ones, so there are a bunch of posts on my blog with teapots. Growing up, we had a tea kettle to put on the stove to boil water, but then again, we would pour it over something into a cup. So that was a really long, involved answer to your question. I hope that helped, or if any of you are trying to start into tea, I hope that was interesting to you to talk about. I can kind of wax poetic on that for a while, especially since I started the blog, because I started it Generally, I was drinking tea at work, and I was just drinking tea bags, and they provide a few different kinds of tea in our break room for free, and so I was drinking those, and occasionally I was supplementing them with things I brought from home, but I kind of got tired of drinking it, and I wanted to, all the same flavors, and I wanted to sort of expand my horizons and my tastes, so I decided to kind of delve into that, and since then I've bought a lot of different things and kind of tried a lot of different things. The final comment that I wanted to talk about was James, Dancing Geek, and if you haven't watched his podcast, it's really fun. You should definitely hang out with him. He has a little bit of a time commitment. Most of his podcasts run a couple hours. Often I'll put one on when I'm sitting at my spinning wheel plying and can kind of watch him and listen to him and work on other things. He said that he wanted me to talk more about myself. So I'm not going to do it this episode because we're already at close to 40 minutes, and that's longer than I usually record for, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I will try and insert a little bit more about myself in other podcasts. I'm trying to keep a balance between talking about projects and things that are interesting to you, sort of as crafters, and a little bit less about myself, because I'm not sure that that's necessarily interesting to all of you, but I will go ahead and try and put in a little more about other hobbies that I have and things that I like to do, and a little bit more about me in future episodes. So thank you, James, for that comment. Thank you all for comments. Those were just the few that I selected that either had specific questions or specific advice or wanted to know something. So I will continue to respond to those. If you want to leave comments on today's episode, I am happy to respond to them in the next episode. And I will keep all of your comments in mind for future episodes. So that is 40 minutes, and I think we're good today. It is mid-afternoon on Sunday. I hope that and you probably won't see this until Sunday night or this week, but I hope you have a wonderful week. As I always say, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I will see you next time. Bye.